Welcome to the Level Up Artists Podcast, where we demystify the creative process and exchange ideas with career-minded artists. We are your hosts, Adriana Amay and
Jackie Sanders. We're two emerging artists sharing forward the advice and business lessons we have learned along our journey. So if you're not already, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you will be notified when we drop a new episode every Tuesday. So on today's episode, we are super excited because we're going to be talking about something that will be definitely very action-oriented, and I think will help a lot of artists out no matter what phase of your artist career you're in. And this is how you can research opportunities in your area for different art events, locations to go to, and really just how to become more immersed in the art world in your community.
Yeah, and whether you're moving to a new city, exploring on your own, perhaps you're considering whether to take your art to the next level and go from hobbyist to either full-time career or you want to do it on the side. Some of the ideas that we're going to be exploring are to help you research the art opportunities that are in your area. So you get to treat it like an adventure. You get to discover new places and make new friends. But the cool thing about what we're discussing is you don't have that pressure where you have to essentially pitch yourself or your art and try to get someone to, like it or sell it or buy it, etc. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in.
Exactly. And so I think this is the perfect topic for anyone who might feel intimidated or overwhelmed with jumping in. I know Adriana and I have both been in that position before of you have this art that you love making, whether you have a friend or two that might make artwork, but you also want to just grow your circle. So if you feel intimidated, it might be overwhelming. You don't really know where to start, what events, what locations to go to. This is the best way that we have found in a process that we're always investing in and how to get or connected to our local arts community and engaged in a more broad community in our city too.
Yeah. And, if you're wondering where to start, well, some of it is going to be actually visiting spaces in person. Some of it you'll be able to research opportunities online. Some of it may come through word of mouth and actually going to the events themselves to check them out.
Yep. And so starting with the physical spaces, we have found that the easiest way to get engaged with your arts community is it's nothing fancy, but making a list of places that you want to start with. So this could be museums, this could be galleries that you may want to go to, kind of go undercover and don't have to tell them you're an artist. You don't have to go with a portfolio or business cards or looking to network, just going undercover to check out the spaces, maybe going to art nonprofits if they have a physical location, regional art organizations, outdoor markets, art fairs. There's really such a range of different art opportunities in any town or city. So really making a list of, it could be 10, it could be 100, but making a list of places that you physically want to go to, and then pick your top 2 or 3. Where are you going to start? Putting them into your calendar and then going from there.
Yeah, and a quick story about going undercover. If you typically roll around, which there is no judgment for the record because I'm guilty of this one, but if you typically roll around wearing overalls, perhaps with paint splatters on them, right? Basically your studio attire, whatever that may be. Some of the places you're visiting, think of it more of visiting them as a potential buyer or a potential collector or just a normal attendee so that you don't stand out and people go, oh, that's an artist and they're going to try to pitch me or anything like that. So instead, just do your best to go undercover to have the best experience, because believe me, sometimes they know and the treatment might be a little bit different if they think you're going there with nefarious purposes, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And we'll talk about that later in the episode about what to do when you physically go to these spaces, but kind of having that undercover persona is super helpful because you get the experience of the location as the average person on the street would when you're walking in. It's very different if you're coming in as a potential buyer, if you're coming in as a potential artist trying to pitch it. So you really want to get a good feel for the experience and come in with almost no expectations. Like you were saying, Adriana, just enjoy the experience and
Yep.
take it all in. But going undercover is definitely a helpful tip. And it's a lot of fun too.
Yes, it is. And along those same lines, since we're talking about researching, when you're thinking about opportunities, there are many different types of email lists that you can find in your area, where they'll generally have like email events, artist opportunities, artist calls, which we'll talk about what some of those venues look like. Actually, some of them Jackie already mentioned. So your local museums, your art nonprofits, your arts councils for your city or counties, a lot of times will have a newsletter you can get on, which will help you cut down on some of that research. And then there's also actually listing websites like, callforentry.org, and there's a whole bunch of them that you can go on where different venues and different institutions can actually list their opportunities. So that's a super easy one and kind of passive. Just get on their list and let those opportunities roll into your inbox.
Exactly. And I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of artists. I know at least was for me of you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you just kind of have to immerse yourself in the information and then make decisions from there. So once you sign up for all these listservs, you might start getting emails about opportunities that are coming up or artist calls, events that are going on nearby. Then the next action would be actually going to these events. So look at the calendar of events and really block off, okay, for the next 2 to 3 months, what's going on in the city around me? Make sure it's a manageable timeline of or expectation. Maybe there's one event a week that you want to go to. Try something new, go to a new spot, but put them on your calendar. And then that way you can go, you can bring friends, you can bring, especially if you have an artist friend and you both want to check it out. That's always fun experience. But go to these events and truly experience them as just another member attending the market, or maybe it's an art festival, maybe it's a gallery exhibition opening. Any one of these things that can kind of give you a better sense of the physical space, but also events like this that are going around in your area.
Yeah, and there might be some where you just walk in and you just go, "Oh, this place feels right." There might be a little bit more research involved. So once you get there, you definitely want to get on that mindset of meeting new people. Um, you may want to bring some business cards just in case. Not saying you're going to hand it out to everybody, but you may meet someone that you're like, oh my goodness, we have to have coffee afterwards. There's this artist. They were so helpful. We definitely connected. Let's talk later. So that way you have your contact info ready to go. And you definitely want to go ahead and talk to some of the people that work there. Perhaps they're saying they go there all the time, or some of the people that are actually participating in the event itself, because you can get a little bit more insight about, hey, is it always this busy, or is this what the energy's like, is the music always this loud, whatever's going on over at the location or the event. So for sure.
Exactly. And the thing that you also want to do, in addition to getting the input of the artists that are participating in the event and getting their feedback, which is always helpful, is really soaking up the experience and asking yourself, is this the type of event that I would like to be part of one day? Is the quality and the price point of the artwork in line with the quality and price point of artwork that I make? Or if you're aspiring to make that level one day, you can set it as more of a reach goal. Does the audience match who you would ideally want to connect with? That's another big thing that I think is really tough for some emerging artists to realize, is that not every event or not every space is a good match for every type of art. And that's what's the exciting thing about having such a different range of events and exhibition spaces and opportunities in any given space. But realizing, okay, is this a true fit for where my artwork and where I want to pursue my energy, where it's meant to go?
Exactly. So if you're a highly conceptual artist, perhaps the art event at the state fair may not be the best match necessarily, depending on what that audience looks like. And definitely the price point could be quite a difference in terms of what they're offering, might be a little bit more on the craft side, and you're going on the more high end fine art side of things. So definitely something to look at. So if you go, okay, so far so good, check, check, check. That's it. I want to go ahead and get started. Where do you even start, right? So in order to get ready and prepare for this kind of event or opportunity, one of the first things you might want to do is make sure that your CV or resume is up to date and go ahead and apply. Um, Obviously, they may say yes or no, but that's okay. You still have to apply and see what happens. You want to have a body of work or products that would be appropriate for this opportunity. Again, think of what we discussed, price points and quality, and the type of products that are offered in the space. And you probably want to go ahead and network with some of the artists that have participated before. A lot of artists are willing to share,
Mhm.
different advice and tips and things that worked for them, where they might say, hey, if you go, make sure you do XYZ. So it's always good to get that, one-on-one with somebody that's been there before and can give you a little bit more information.
Yeah, and especially using social media to your advantage in that point. I mean, you can go on, let's say if it's a pop-up event that happens a couple times a year, you can go to their Instagram page and they probably tag makers that have been featured there before. They have images of their work. You can go to their profile. It really is so easy to get in contact with a lot of these artists and makers and people that are part of the world that you are wanting to get into. And most people are super generous and willing to talk and share their experiences with you, especially if you go in just with an open mind and wanting to learn. And so that's, I think, our biggest tip is really just to go into every location or event with an open mind. Go in with a positive attitude, wanting to network and not really seeking anything in the beginning. Not trying to walk in the door the first day and expect to have gallery representation within 30 minutes because that may not be a reality for all people. But don't also go let your self-limiting beliefs of what is possible one day get in your way. Yes, as we talked about earlier, not every opportunity or every event is made for every type of artist, but that is the amazing part about being part of an art community is that everyone does have a place somewhere. And it's just a matter of looking out in your community, seeing what's out there, seeing where is a good fit, and then putting yourself out there with a strong application, with strong body of work, and letting your audience come and connect the work that they're meant to have in their home one day.
Okay, couldn't have said it better. That's beautiful right there. Well, thank you so much for listening to our conversation. We really hope you enjoyed this episode.
As always, our blog will be linked in the show notes where you can find episode notes as well as links to all of our other podcast episodes.
And if you want to stay connected with Jackie and I in between episodes and share what you have learned, maybe you have some additional tips that we can share with our listeners, you can follow us on social media. I'm at May Art across all platforms.
And I'm at J Sanders Studio on all platforms. Or if you want to follow the podcast, we are at Level Up Artists. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.